My name is Kweku Asmah. If you attended Ghana Secondary Technical School, they call you a giant, but I'm only 5'6". Today I'm going to talk about ethics and commitment. I'm very happy to be here. I am not an expert in HR. I'm not a specialist. I'm not a certified person in this subject. I shared my journey with a few people here, and they thought that it would be worth sharing with you all. So what I'll do today is to take you through the transformation journey that I have gone through, the need for managers and employees to be committed, the results that we got out of the program and the journey, and then we would end up with the discussion on ethics. So I have two presentations to share with you today. The first one is what I call the TAG journey, which is, TAG is the Automation Ghana Group, which is the company, the mother company of the group of companies that we have today. So under the group, we have Process and Plant Automation, which is the oldest, which was started in 2003. And then we have Electrical Switchgear Limited, Automation Solutions, and then Smart Home. Our vision and our mission has remained the same since 2015, and we still believe in the vision to be West Africa's choice for smart solutions. The areas of business, like MC said, I'm an electrical engineer, and we do provide these electrical engineering services for industries, mainly the multinationals. Where did we start from? This is a picture I took in 2006. There was eclipse of the sun sometime, and these are the employees I had. My office used to be that one. It was a rented building, and then in 2007 we moved into another rented building on the Spintex Road. And then by 2012, we had 51 employees. We were growing steadily. We thought we were doing extremely well in our small corner. And then in 2014, late 2014, I joined Stanford Seed. We finished in 2015. It was a 3-month crash program. At the program, things like companies and countries that have transformed were introduced to us. And for me, it was shocking to see Dubai within 13 years, having transformed from, this is Sheikh Zayed Road, if you've been to Dubai. So 1990 Sheikh Zayed Road, and then 2003 Sheikh Zayed Road. I mean, this was huge. And then we were also shown photographs of South Korea and the transformation. And we thought that there was everything possible for us to do. So after the program, we embarked on our own internal program, which we called the Mindset Shift. So shareholders of the company, and we have 2 shareholders, myself and a partner, decided to make a statement of personal commitment that we will not take any money, including salaries, from the company for 5 years. And this we made clear to the management of the company, that we are committed to transform the business from where we were to another point. We defined it and made it clear to them. We also selected people within the company who we thought had the right attitude and understood what we were talking about, and put them in key positions. And then we embarked on an enterprising employee program, which is more like finding people amongst the employees who search for information, who understand the market. They use their personal time to research on what is going on the market. they tell their colleagues when they're doing the wrong things to stop. So we got these guys and trained them and positioned them to pass on the information to help these colleagues who were more like on the left side to be upright. We appointed core value marshals. So we listed our core values and pasted them everywhere in the offices, and appointed members of the team to be the marshals of these core values, to live it. And these were carefully selected, people who we thought believed in what we were trying to do. And that worked quite well. So training was about 30% of our time. We would train and review and train and get feedback and train and all of that. And then we embarked on the graduate training program. So I would go to Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology, speak to the final year students, give them free lectures on new trend in technology, what's going on out there, and attract them to join us to do national service. And so that program has really helped us, because it gets us to bring them in, do national service, and select the best out of them. And we look at attitude. It's very, very important. So this program is still going on. This year we have about 40 national service personnel with us. And the program is a very useful one. And then we had a lot of team bonding activities, just to make sure that we know each other and we know people's weaknesses and challenges, and we continue with the business. Another program we had was the Operational Excellence Program. I've already talked about training, but we also identified our own processes. We had to define our own processes and find the outputs and define them properly and document them, and then look at the needs of the employees and what they needed to be trained on. And so that was done. And then we implemented the shared reward scheme. This shared reward scheme is a program that some companies call it the 13th month salary. So we have 13th and 14th and 15th month salary. And this is a combination of everything. At the end of the day, everybody finds his input in the revenue that the company generates. And so if you're a driver and you are supposed to do deliveries, we have a flow chart that shows where you are. And so if we take you out, or if your output is low, obviously it will affect the final output. And we did this, and we do it every year. And so beginning of year, we set the target and say, look, if we hit, say, 80% of the set target, it's a 13th month reward. 90, it's a 14th month, so you have 2. So in December, you take 3 salaries. If we hit 100%, it is 3 months plus December. All right. So every employee finds himself within the whole chain and contributing to the output, and that's what we call the shared reward scheme. Managers are excluded. Now, reason is simple. Managers have a different form of reward scheme. And it is specific, and we try to define what it takes for a manager to push the employees to get the final one. Because you see, we found out that if we get the employees, for example, salespeople, to only be measured by their output, and we leave it there, how about a guy in HR? All right, so the shared reward scheme is standard for the final revenue, and we try to find everybody's role in there. So for every project that we do, there's an HR partner on the project team. There is a finance partner. There is a procurement partner. So every employee finds himself as part of a project. And so at the end of the day, if you slack in what you're doing, it affects everybody else. And so everybody is watching everybody. And then productivity meetings. One thing we realized was that if you had a supervisor in a particular section and he wasn't doing well in monitoring, that nosedives everything. And so this is mandatory. We've automated it, and minutes of meetings are recorded live and online, and therefore you cannot afford not to have your review meetings. All right, so we've built systems to make sure that we are checking every employee and every manager, every supervisor, to make sure that the KPIs are being monitored. And if you fail to monitor it or report on it, it shows on a dashboard. And then we also have performance contracts. These are specific to the employee. So beside the shared reward scheme, a salesperson, for example, would have a bonus or commission on his performance, which is stated specifically in his performance contract, and we do this every year. And then we also have key employee retention programs. So specific people are put on specific training programs and incentivized to make sure that certain long-term projects are executed, so you don't leave midway, right? So this is a program that we also have. And then we also have statement of personal commitment from every manager. So every year, you would write your own story and present to the board for the board to sign jointly with you. And this is what we call the statement of personal commitment. Every year, we review our structure, our company structure, whether to continue with it or to modify it to suit the needs. Because we do our SWOT and we realize that, look, there's a weakness here, we've got to change, and we keep changing. All right, and then, of course, last year we embarked on an ISO journey and we successfully got our certificate. So this is a typical statement that one of the managers put down for me. I, so-and-so, commit to the plans of TAG by ensuring I partner with my colleague managers to ensure our customers are satisfied at all times. Where there are shortfalls identified, I will immediately notify the manager involved to work together and ensure a quick resolution of the issue. I will also seek to escalate issues I anticipate will occur and seek to immediately get resolutions. I commit to personal learning on ways of improving XYZ. And then, now this is after we have identified our weaknesses and what we're going to do. So if you see here, this person is from finance and talking about management of cash flow and all of that. So you personally write and sign this and submit. And this has really helped because every quarter when we review performance, we pull this document and check whether you are doing what you said you would do. It requires a lot of time and dedication, but it works. This is another one. I wouldn't want to bore you, but then we do feedback sessions. So this is where the engagement really helps management, because employees tell us what they are going through, and this really is good. We do the feedback session twice. We do it as much as possible. It's anonymous, and then we communicate with them on how we're going to resolve the issues. And this is clear. We meet every department. I sit in, the management sits in, and we try to let them know what we've received and how we're going to resolve these. And then we also have customers, and we have instituted mandatory job completion forms. So finance partner will never invoice the job if he doesn't see the job completion form. That job completion form has feedback from the customer that would tell us that, look, he's happy or he's not happy or something went wrong, etc., etc. And this kind of feedback really helps us. Just a quick, in 2015 when we were launching our program, we were in that small building. There were 51 of us. We cut a cake to launch the transformation journey. And then we started with our team building exercises, etc., etc. We demolished the office building along the line in 2016, and then built that in 2017. And then in 2019, we put up another one across the street. This significantly repositioned us because our image changed, and customers now even believed in us more by just visiting us and having discussions with us. Got us to do business with other bigger institutions, etc., etc. Now, I would say that the commitment of my team is what has led to this. It is very, very important to have committed employees, and there is no two ways about it. You can have all the plans on paper, but you need the employees and the management to believe in your dream and support you in going ahead with that. These are a list of our customers. That's snapshots of some of the sites that we work. I'll quickly move to the other presentation. All right, so at the end of this session, we would want to be able to answer questions like what ethics are, what ethical standards are and why they matter, and then how do we become ethically conscious, and how we establish a culture, ethical culture in our company. So ethics can be defined as a set of principles, values, and standards which govern a person's behavior and understanding of what is morally right or wrong. And then ethical values. Now, these are the desired behaviors. And so every company has values. But these values, we write them. Sometimes we find ourselves not living them. But these are what the customer expects from us. If we say we are to be trusted, do we really live that? Do we exhibit that? So this is what we see as the challenges and acceptance of gifts, no matter how small it is. In our company, we say, let your boss know that the customer you just fixed his equipment gave you something. If he forces it on you, you take it, let your boss know. Your boss will be the one to call and say thank you. And so it has helped us to get to know who is trying to influence who. Of course, once in a while, somebody goes off. But this is how we have done it. Confidentiality. So, we say you don't release information. Now, what kind of information? We try to be specific. So we make sure that we document as much as we know. We put it on paper that if it is this, this is what you do. If it is this, don't do this. So as we move along, we try to document some of these to improve. And then how well you keep company property, what you do outside of work and what you do within the office premises, drug-free workplace, conflict of interest. We have a lot of, I have 120 technicians and a few other engineers, and they work for all sorts of customers. And it is very likely that the guy in your neighborhood will call you to say, look, come fix my work, my whatever over the weekend and all of that. And so we allow them to do it as long as it doesn't conflict with our business. But you have to tell us. And so you have the choice to tell us. Because most of the time when the equipment goes faulty, and he knows we work with us, and he calls you 1, 2, 3, and you don't have the money to come and fix it, you call me. And so these come, and employees have been made aware that, look, if you frustrate the customer you are trying to work with on the side, he would report you. And it happens all the time. And so as we meet employees day in, day out, we let them know, and then they try to do the right things. Because we will not take that business from you if you tell us. We would rather prefer that, okay, the material you would use, pick it from us, because it's business for us. And so they've become indirectly sales agents for us. Okay? All right, so a bit more detail. Accepting gifts, gratuities, and entertainment from someone involved with a claim. Obviously, if the person is influencing you, you should know, and you should be able to report it. Sometimes they are unable to tell the big man that, sorry, I won't take it. But look, let your boss know. And once the boss is aware, the boss, having committed to excellence, will do the right thing by getting back to the customer to let him know that, look, if you try to do this, this is what will happen. I'll get to know, and we don't encourage that. And the statement down there is you are paid your salary. In fact, this presentation is what we do. We give to our employees, and we keep going through every day. When a new employee comes in, once in a year, we go through the same presentation. Do not give out confidential information you acquire through employment, all right, without being authorized to do so. Giving out confidential information obtained through your job or using such information for your own personal gain would be unethical, sometimes unlawful. And then company property, especially vehicles. Use of internet. This time, internet is quite common. But what happens is that there are technicalities. These days where we host, we have a lot of virtual meetings. You require a lot of bandwidth. So if you have an employee who is always on social media, your bandwidth is going to be affected. You are in the meeting room having a meeting and your system is freezing and an employee is misbehaving on the internet. And so this is something that's very important. Sometimes you have to invest a little bit of money in managing your IT network to ensure that bandwidth is controlled. And so for us, in our meeting rooms, you have the full bandwidth. Other offices, we limit it to emails. And so if you want to do social media, you can only do it after 5. So this is something that we have done, because you cannot also prevent them completely from using the internet, because at odd hours, they would have to render a service. And so the system must be available. You don't want employees to begin to give excuses that the internet is slow, or I didn't have the bandwidth, or I couldn't download the file when I had to. So that management of the system is quite important. But they need to know that they cannot abuse the use of the internet. Right, and then there are certain standard things. You don't access pornographic sites, posting and sharing material that are considered against cultural diversity, sexist, threatening, obscene material, etc., etc. The use that impedes or hampers the conduct of company business for political purposes, to solicit for charity or whatever, mailing lists that are personal, should not be entertained. You must not engage in outside employment or activities that conflict with your assigned duties and responsibilities. As I said, some people still do it. I've had a number of incidents where employees begin to trade within the business. And so a customer calls, and then he takes over the business and does it on his own. Exactly. These happen. They're real. Although we have all the systems in place, you'll find that 1 or 2 people will still do it. And that is why we try to know the employees. We know them inside out. So it's not every employee who would be given access to a certain customer, for example. We try to do that. Because of the environment and the society, there's so much influence. And another thing is that through our graduate trainee program, we are able to select people with the right character. So out of 35 national service employees, we would employ 7. And the 7 not necessarily highly skilled, but attitude is right, and they are trainable. And so we position them there, they are loyal, they are committed, and you get 100% service. Right. And then when it happens, you don't waste time. Immediately, you know. All right, so I think this is straightforward. You don't come to work drunk. If you have found out the exit straight. Zero tolerance policy for violence, harassment in the workplace. So there's a debate going on right now on firearms and what happens if somebody comes into the premises to harm somebody. And majority of the employees think that it's so remote, it will not happen. But we are embarking on ISO 45001, which is safety and safety standards. And it requires us to do this. Whether the environment is, prone to this or not, we have to. And so we devise ways to ensure that we prevent this. We cannot put a scanner in every shop. We've got 10 retail outlets around. We cannot put a scanner in a shop, a scanner, metal, detector in front of the shop. There must be some money there. So the bad guy would rather think, let's find a way, So these are discussions that are going on. We keep, iterating to be sure that every area is covered. So currently you come in, you check in at the reception. If you have a bag, you declare, or we give you a cabinet, we give you a key, you put your bag in. Or if you have a laptop for a meeting, take it out, things like that. But it's an ongoing thing that you cannot have a perfect system, but yeah. And then, of course, political activities. In the political year, election year, you find that some employees engage in these discussions. Leadership. So I myself, you will never find me talk about politics. No manager will talk about politics. And so we have the right to ensure that nobody talks about politics. Because people get really offended when people say things, and it affects the job. So you come to the office space, there's nothing about politics. Even if the latest information out there will never be discussed by anybody. If you do it, then you're doing it privately. So benefits to the employee. You have peace of mind. You walk and, in the military, the guy in front doesn't worry about what's happening behind him because his colleague behind him is protecting him. And there's 100% trust. This is in the military. And when you are able to establish this in your company, every report you get, you trust it 100%. Nobody would falsify information for you. Usually employees would try to change their report if they've not done what they have to do. Some of them quickly go and rectify it, so it never gets seen. But if you are able to implement this very well, you know that you trust everything and you trust everybody. And pride. You are just proud of what you've been able to do, and you walk with pride. The reputation goes up. Trust is built, obviously. Customers will trust you, and customers will bring business all the time. And the teamwork, the team dynamics goes up. All right. Now, walking the talk. I talked about no manager talks about politics. Managers and team leads have a huge role to play in determining whether or not their team members adopt and imbibe the company's value. If leaders do not maintain ethical standards and observe the rules, employees lose confidence. They will soon begin to see ethical standards as something written on paper. There was a time I had a manager who would not be at post and would not be anywhere but just at home, and employees got to know that this was what their boss was doing. And you could tell that the smart guys started leaving the company. And the lazy ones were excited. And so the outputs within that department went down. It was clear. It was traced to the manager. And so if the manager does not live by the company values, is ethically not right, obviously everything will collapse. Everything will collapse, And so investigation happened, and we had to let him go, So there's so much emphasis on the management team. If the management team is weak, if you have somebody within management who is doing his personal stuff, definitely you will not grow. It is a no-no. And so selecting management team members is crucial. It is important to note that your teammates observe you a lot and notice any inconsistencies between what you say and what you do. They will see it. There is no, they would see it. And they will not tell you, but they will act like you. So whatever you are trying to do and hiding would affect you and your performance, and your output will show after a while. So let's look at this example. I would like to cite an example of a manager who had a habit of having occasional chats with his fellow manager. He felt it was okay, all right? Now, he disciplined a female employee, and the employee goes to HR and reports him that, look, he chats, and I'm chatting with my colleague, and I'm being punished, all right? But the manager feels that, but I'm meeting my targets, so it's okay to have a 1-hour conversation with my friend or my colleague at the office. But it is not about the time you are using but you have said that we have to be serious. We've got to get to the job. So forget about your target as manager being achieved. That employee is also having conversations because he sees you do it. Unfortunately for her, she is not able to hit her targets. But that's not what she is talking about. She insists that you are having conversations. Why can't I have conversations? And so you've got to walk the talk. If in doubt, confirm with your HR management. This is quite important. Sometimes ethical issues, you are not sure. Sometimes you are in between. You don't know whether this is ethically right or wrong. And so it's always good to talk to somebody. And usually you've got to talk to the person who will penalize you if matter come. All right? So that's what we say. We have an employee handbook, and we've spelled out everything, including a penalty table. And every offense has a penalty. And so you can easily go through and know that if I do this, this will happen. If I do that, that will happen. If it's well documented and well communicated, employees will know. Ask questions. Be curious. If something does not make sense to you, seek clarity. You might be walking into an unethical situation without knowing. So anytime something tells you, hey, you just ask questions. So let's look at this example. Martha gets a tip from a particular customer each time he buys from. The customer buys from our shop. Martha isn't supposed to offer credit to customers. One day the customer comes and asks Martha to supply goods, and that money will be on its way as soon as he gets to the office. So Martha is a shop attendant. Very good customer comes in every time, and he never takes the change. Oh, it's for breakfast, it's for lunch, it's for your trotro, etc., etc. So you get so used to the customer. But the rule is that we don't give credit to customers. The customer shows up one day, says, I forgot my wallet. I'm a customer, just give me the goods. And so that's it. What do you think? Did Martha do the right thing or not? She's a customer. Martha knows the customer's office. So exactly. It's still wrong. Because the rule is that we don't give credit. It's as simple as that. We don't. So in matters like flexibility. So So that is why the earlier statement is speak to your boss. If you are unsure, because you are caught in between. But you are caught in between because you've been accepting gifts. Yes. Right? See something, say something. So do not stay silent when you see the wrong thing going on. This automatically makes you an accomplice. If something goes wrong and it's being investigated, the fact that you saw it and did nothing about it, knowing that the rules are clear, you are an accomplice. Because we can assume that you knew about it and you kept quiet because you have interest. It will be an assumption. Genuinely, you might not be at fault, as in an accomplice, but because you did not say it to anybody. That is why you must always be talking to your boss about such things. It's a challenge. You've seen it. Your colleague is abusing company property. What do? You know. So I was asking my employees a few days ago about ethical challenges that they face. And somebody said, oh, none. It is not possible. It is not possible. And so probing further, then she starts, okay, so, So it is from the smallest issue, like using the company phone to make a personal call, to the big deals that people do. You face these challenges every time. And as you go on, you try to identify new challenges that are popping up. Because people get craftier and craftier, Now, setting unrealistic goals will also get people to do the wrong things. So you, the manager, must make sure your goals are realistic. You've got to think through and make sure that they are realistic. Because if it is not realistic, the employee then finds ways to go around it and makes this become a problem within the organization. So it is always best to review targets and plans for the year or quarter with the team. They need to be on the same page with you. Make them understand what you are working towards and that the performance goals and objectives can be achieved. The moment they start to think it is unattainable, they might feel pressured and tempted to cut corners to achieve them, compromising on their ethical standards in the process. And then fear of retaliation. There's another example I want to share with you. Baba and Enoch are on the same team. In terms of age and work experience, Enoch is way ahead of Baba. Enoch never meets his team target. And each time they attend team meetings, he always asks for an extension on his deadline. He gets the job done all right, but in his own time. Baba sits right next to Enoch. She sees him using YouTube most of the time instead of working. So when Enoch has to work, he's on YouTube. Baba sees it. They go for meetings, and he asks for extra time, and then he goes back to do the job. So Baba decides to report this matter, but nothing is done about it. Instead, word goes around that she reported him to HR, and now everyone in the team has turned on her, and Enoch is in particular. Being her superior is deliberating, frustrating her work. This happens a lot. So people will also keep quiet if they know that the environment will not take action. Management will not take action if they voice it out. So they see something, say something, comes with action. So if you implement it and it doesn't matter who is involved. You must take action. Baba must know that something has been done about that report she made. Otherwise, she's going to recoil and stay in her corner. Apathy sets in, team dynamics drop, and then company targets are being missed. Revenue is going down. shareholders' investment is going waste. So, like Prof said, it comes to the bottom line. You just have to make sure there's commitment, the ethical culture is up there, and work is going on as a team. Otherwise, it comes back to affect everybody. Most of the time, the fear of payback for doing the right thing may cause people to stay silent and look on when the wrong thing is going on right under their nose. The everybody is doing it mentality. We very often fall culprit to the printer. That thesis you print out, a program lineup of an event at church, you are organizing your child's assignment, etc. Everyone does it occasionally. But is it right or wrong? It might be the cost of A4 sheet and some few grams of toner, right? And some small electricity. But the practice is what creates the bigger problem. So sometimes you look at the amount of money spent on this and you say, okay, so if management thinks that it is a small amount of money, document it and say every employee has access to this number of personal printouts in a year. Finished. So it's defined. But where you say don't use company property, but the manager is printing the child's assignment and they are seeing it. So they also take their decision. Misrepresenting facts. In order not to look bad at meetings, some members fall for the temptation of twisting information to avoid getting in trouble. So Kofi got a call from a client last week and had to give the client a quotation by 12 p.m. on Monday. He honestly forgot, and before entering his weekly team meeting, he gets a call from the client who is clearly peeved about the delay, and the call concludes by an agreement between Kofi and the client that the deadline be extended. Now, in reporting to his boss, Kofi leaves out the part where he actually forgot. All right? So he speaks the truth, but not the whole truth. Now, the quotation should have been sent to the client by 12 p.m. But it will be ready by close of day tomorrow. I have already communicated this to the client. So this is what Kofi reports. All right? The boss, his subordinate has done a good job in being prompt about communicating the delay to the client. But in reality, there's a client somewhere who is unhappy about the delay with the quote. So you see the difference. The employee has not given the full story to his boss, but he has made the client unhappy. Now the client knows that if I ever go into this company for a quotation, it is likely to delay. But the boss is not aware. Kofi will still do the quotation and send it by 12. But will the client come back? Maybe not. When the client needs a quotation within an hour, he will not come back because he knows that these guys, I have to call them and complain for it to come. All right? So sometimes employees would misrepresent information. Our salespeople have a CRM software, which is online, and so they work from anywhere. And they are supposed to put their activities in there. And because there is a morning meeting with the manager, and because the manager would check in the morning some of the undone assignments, we discovered that a particular person would say done, 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 done. So now the manager sees it and starts probing. Asking 1, 2, 3 questions, then the employee is exposed. All right, so you have to know, maybe you have several employees under you, so you don't have the time to look at all the details. But you've got to know your employees and know who to ask all the questions and who to allow to work independently. And if you zoom in, you realize that all the information is not right. And so in our company, we always say, tell the whole truth, not just the truth. Don't leave some out. Because that little one that you are leaving out is actually where we are going to lose money. Unethical leadership. It is always difficult to be ethical when the person you report to behaves unethically. If your boss makes you manipulate figures or indirectly suggests that you skip a procedure to get the work done more quickly, you might be forced to comply. And you find yourself also doing little things like that. So it's important that we don't encourage that practice. Very, very important. An organization filled with unethical leaders is most likely to have a very toxic, unethical work culture. And when it gets to that point, the good guys will leave you. Because the employees are smart. They know. They know that this is wrong. Maybe they've said it once, twice, nothing is being done. They will leave and go to your competitors and work for them. And so it's important that we as leaders practice good ethical behavior. Job descriptions. Most of the time, employees do not go back to look at the job description. So they take assignments as they come. If your review with your employee does not take into consideration the job description, you would sway the job to a point where you will be missing certain opportunities. So it's important that during the job, the evaluation of performance, you look at job description, processes and procedures that are documented, and then the appraisal settings that you have. If you have a performance contract or whatever it is. So these three documents are key. They've got to go hand in hand. And usually what we try to do is a month before appraisal, you remind everybody to go back to job descriptions and look at it. And look at the performance contract and look at your processes and procedures. Because if there's a particular item on your job description that you are currently not doing, you must have a reason why you are not doing it. But sometimes we forget, and then it just goes undone. And then if it's irrelevant, you may have to review the job description, because if it's there, it must be done. Give of your best. Leave no room for mediocrity. The company might not be for your father, but you progress when the company does. So you've got to contribute to its progress. People keep saying the company no be your puppy on. They will tell you. They will tell you. But the point is that the employee who has stayed in a dynamic company that is seeing growth also sees growth in his life. And that's the fact. So whether it's for your dad or not, as far as management is transparent and truthful, and employees believe in you, they'll stay with you and then progress with you and grow together. So you must have written standards. You must have it on ethics. These standards should be well established and communicated to employees. Currently, we are trying to have an online learning platform where all our standards and rules will be put on, and it will be part of appraisals. So every year you've got to do the course and write a test, and it forms 10% of your appraisal. And we are automating it, so if you don't do it, computer no lie. All right? So it's important. And so if you don't go through it, you know you are losing 10%. If you go through it, you have learned and you have refreshed your memory on this. There should be a procedure to report potential violations. So it should be transparent. It shouldn't be like go book an appointment with HR manager before. That whole process, if it's complicated, people will not report. You can organize performance evaluation of ethical conduct for your team with specific indicators. So we have defined we have definitions for our values and certain expected behaviors for each value that we have at various levels. And so during appraisal, that table is actually printed and added to your performance contract. So during appraisal, we look at it and see where you fit. And it's been clearly described. So we actually hired a consultant to do it for us. So we've described all the behaviors. So you read it and tell us where you belong, and your boss will say where you belong, and then at the end of the day, it is agreed. And so we do performance appraisals on our values. Now, and then we go ahead after appraisals, we go ahead to do calibration. The calibration would be other managers who one way or the other interact with the employee, checking that the boss has been fair. And that also puts a lot of confidence in the integrity of the appraisal results. Make resources available on ethical advice for your team members. Use an employee handbook if you're important. Try hanging up your values around the office. Make sure everybody has access on your website. It should be there. It should be everywhere. But if you are evaluating them based on the values, it helps because they are always aware and they know that they will be asked, and so they try to live it and practice it. Now, leave no room for ambiguity. So make it clear to everyone. And you make them as precise as possible. I have one statement here. For instance, client confidentiality is key. If you say client confidentiality is key, it is not clear. What we prefer is that you say do not share client details with a third party without prior authorization by the client. This is clear. Or you say, do not post any testimonial from a client without his consent. So, but if you say client confidentiality is key, what kind of information should an employee put out there or not? Probably the client's phone number. At the end of the day, that's it. That's what he thinks you are talking about. So for client confidentiality, we prefer to break it down into what is possible. What kind of information do we have about the client? The job we did for the client, the pictures we took of his place, the testimonial he gave us. What information are we talking about? So, we try to make it as clear as possible. Zero tolerance for unethical behavior. Like I said, crack the whip. You don't, once you have a penalty table, it is not your discretion anymore. So if you're an employee manager, head of department, and the employee violates the rule, you pick the penalty table, give it to the employee, where do you fall? It's clear, right? If you've not documented it, then it becomes a matter of discretion, and then people develop enemies and all of that at the workplace, which is not too good. Okay, so there are some that require immediate dismissal. Of course, you have your own rules at the workplace, and so, but there are certain offenses that investigation isn't even necessary. I mean, at the end of the day, it's the facts. If you steal money, definitely it's outright dismissal, what HR people call summary dismissal, right? So these are questions, please.
Thank you. Prof, it's been a wonderful presentation, seriously. I have few concerns. That is your management style and that of mine. The most important one is the fact that if you steal from my company, I don't sack you, which we can discuss later. My problem is, as you grow and you show signs of progress, do you see any signs of envy and jealousy among your managers?
Not yet. Not yet. We are like family. Sometimes you have one person whose focus is money. Money. And so it doesn't matter. He understands the vision. He knows where we are going to, etc., etc. But you see, our client base, we work with oil and gas, mining. They are paying them in foreign currency. So his colleagues in those companies earn much more. And he expects that he gets the same amount of money. But we are a service provider, so we don't dig oil. We don't mine gold. All right? So that's the difference. And so I tell you that, look, this is the P&L. This is it. And I'm very transparent. So you see revenue, you see our costs, you see the bottom line, you see what goes into salary. So where are we going to get that money to pay you? So I've had that kind of person. But in terms of envy, no. No. Not yet.
I like that. Yeah. The not yet. But you know, Nana, what you're saying is something that can occur without it being obvious, because people also have ways of hiding true emotion. I've come to places where I've recognized, and permit me to say this. So I said I was asking questions, but I worked in an organization, the same one you worked in. And one day, so we had a habit of when you have your birthday or you're leaving, we'll have drinks on the tables. So to cut it short, I turned around and my drink wasn't there. I'm not joking with you. This is a very serious issue. My drink wasn't there. Then I asked my friend who is my closer, I said, Nana, her name is Nana. I said, Nana, yeah, have you taken my drink? She said, no. We turned around, the drink was back. And I'll tell you what happened in my naivete. 3 months down the line, my position was swapped with the person who picked the drink. And during that time, yes. During that time, I had gone to Tamale. And I'm fortunate to have a praying mother. Like someone was fortunate to be born in Ghana, we have him. I have a praying mother, and I'd gone to Tamale to work. Just before I boarded, and this is serious, just before I boarded the plane, my colleague called me from Accra and said, Asnat, oh, Hefa. I said, we're on the tarmac. She said, go back, don't climb the plane. I said, oh, but we are on the tarmac. She said, go back, don't climb the plane. I brushed her aside, got on the plane, 4 hours from Tamale, circling Ghana, up, down, left, right. When I got home and I said it, my father looked at my mother. They both started laughing. I said, what is funny? They saw me in the sky, drop and enter the ground, and they covered me. So the lady who had called me from my office said, Asnat, I saw you buried alive, and I was screaming and telling the people you are not dead. But they buried you. But for my praying mother. So yes, sometimes in very subtle ways. And this is someone we hang out with. So on Fridays, we go and hang out together. She's at Jericho R. So sometimes in very... so this is me. I'm telling you the story as in myself. So you don't think it's something coming from somewhere, myself. Okay? And sometimes sabotage comes in different ways. And I've learned to be very careful with the level of exposure of my person when I'm in a job. So I tend to be very childlike. I'm sure by the time I started talking, but I've learned how to structure myself to say, when there's a risk, you have to be wise as a serpent and still gentle as a dove. So yes, sometimes in subtle ways it's evident. The person at the top will never see it, but it's being done. And do you know what my friend and I said to me? She said, Asnat, when you saw the drink, what made you feel that you should drink it? Because I was trusting. That's me. So when you said that, so I've been taking notes. He said, knowing someone is behind you that you can trust in the military, it helps. And for people who are very trusting, what I've also come to learn is, by the sincerity of your heart, you will get protection. Nature protects you. But it doesn't mean that you shouldn't be wise. Okay? I'm not saying this to say that ethics has juju and all of that. I'm just saying, based on the question that I asked, for those of you who are Christians, even in Islam and other places, there are guidelines for walking. So you have to be gentle as a dove, but wise as a serpent. Because when you are ethical, I can promise you that the number of enemies you have are 50 times what your friends would be in this particular environment. Enough of myself. It was just to prompt you.
Let me
Any
just,
questions?
let me just add something small about this.
Yeah.
So, when somebody has a funeral, somebody is bereaved, people want to donate and they take a sheet of paper around the company and we stopped that. Because you find that some people get so much money and others don't, and it affects those who don't have people around them. So you find that those donations even create a problem. So we say, look, welfare, donate. If you want to do a personal extra, do it individually. So we don't take a sheet round for people to write and pledge and whatever. It's a no-no. It's on our ethical list, things that we don't do. So we don't contribute to anybody. If you want to do it, if you think he's your friend, your buddy, you just do it as a personal thing. On this thing you just said, when I left the company, and same. And so I left on the 31st July, and 1st August I was a contractor. I was signed as a contractor to go back and continue with what I was doing. And there were certain jobs that were supposed to be done, and one huge one that I was supposed to get. They floated the tender, and I wasn't invited, and it came for adjudication. And my former boss called and said, Kweku, I thought you were interested in this job. I said, yes, I am. He says, but the documents are here in front of me, and your name is not there. Obviously, a colleague of mine took it out. So he took my name out of the list of competitors or contractors who were supposed to bid for the job. And this is one of the things that happens, but but not within the company. Right?
Okay. Questions? Okay. We're getting yours ready, so I don't pick on you.
Thank you, sir. Your presentation was quite insightful. I want to ask, research has actually shown that job satisfaction and commitment are key to employee retention and growth of the company. You made mention that you conduct periodic employee satisfaction survey. I want you to share with us some few outcomes of the survey. Are your employees satisfied on the job? Can you tell us about people leaving the job in terms of turnover intentions? If there are any thoughts you could share with us. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, so we do the satisfaction survey twice a year. Our target is 80% satisfaction. Every year we grow. This last one we did was 86%. We started at 79, but we've maintained a target of 80. Top among the high scorers in terms of the parameters we check is it's a learning environment. Okay, the learning, there's training every day. And so, that tops it. And then we also have things like friendly environment, brotherliness, all of that. Bottom is salary. So that is what brings us down all the time. But we find that gradually, we look at the parameters, the areas we are scoring low, and work on them. And we communicate what we are doing. And so some of them are short-term, some are long-term. So you find that each time when we analyze, each parameter improves. Each parameter improves. But we do it per department. And you can tell that every department has peculiar needs. So you see the trend, and it helps us improve. In terms of turnover, we target 10% every year. But we have key personnel. Key means that the skill they have will be difficult to replace. And so we measure that separately. So the target for that is 3%. All right, so we don't just do it across board. But yeah, 10%. Currently we have 185 or so employees. But we are way below that. I mean, I think last year was 3% or something like that. You know, but yeah, people will come, people will go. But we have designed backup plans for everyone. Every key employee has a backup, so it doesn't shake the business at all. Yeah, and we have training. Okay, so we employ a lot of young people. Average age is like 31, 32 years. Average. The young people are all sharp guys, and most of them would want to take their masters in the US or whatever. So we have a provision for that. And so you find that when they come in, some of them want to acquire some experience before they go to school. Others want to work and continue working. Others want to get experience to jump into a mining company. We ask specific questions for you to tell us that I will leave in 3 years. I'm likely to, or I don't know. So we have all that information, and we try to engage them on their journey. So if we know you would leave in 3 years' time, we know the kind of jobs we give you and the skill you want to acquire so you can leave. Most of the time, they leave, they go, and they bring us business. So for us, we don't see that as a negative thing, but we work so that we both win. Yeah.
Thank you so much for the presentation. I am Faustina, and I'm here because of AGI. I'm running a very small business, SME, but there's something that I did, and I want to share, and I don't know whether I'm doing it right or wrong. Concerning what you said about zero tolerance for unethical behavior, one of which was stealing, and you said outright dismissal when it's realized. Something happened in my business. Normally, what I produce Northern Ghana textiles and these fabrics. And so I also train people in knowing how to produce them. But something happened recently. One of my workers, whom I've empowered, I've actually built his capacity on how to design the fabrics for people to weave them. Not knowing she's been stealing the fabrics to her hometown. And I didn't know. But most of them came from my hometown. I actually come from Upper West, but the business is being established in Tamale. And so this girl I have trained also came from Upper West. And so I house them, I accommodate them. And there are 2 in a room. And in December, accordingly, she stole most of the fabrics, including smokes, was packing them in a bag, knowing that her colleague was seeing her doing it. She didn't bother. And she packed everything and went to her hometown. So just recently, something happened again. I think she made her colleague angry, and she now informed the supervisor of the shop. And she also told me. So, yeah. So I was so angry. Then I calmed down and held a meeting. We talked about it. And now my fear is, if I let her go, now that she's the only one I have trained, what will happen to the business? It means that I cannot travel, I can't do other stuff. So I have engaged someone whom I've started training, but I haven't sacked her. Am I doing things right or wrong? Thank you.
This one is open to the house. Ladies Linda, you wanted to say something? Because Linda, you have something
So,
to say.
something like this has happened to me before. Yeah. It happened way, like, maybe 15 years ago. I had not documented anything. I was trusting one person. The challenge was, should I let him go? Right? But I let him go. And I started again. Because I believe in my abilities, I learned from that experience. And then I continued. Today, that guy is still walking around. He could not do it the way I'm doing it. So, sometimes you've got to bite the bullet and learn from these things. If you've not documented it, your decision is still yours. You can't keep the person. If the person shows remorse, whatever it is, you're flexible. But the reason why I insist that you document it is that if it is documented, the person goes ahead to do it, then obviously, But if you've not documented it and you are friends with the person, he assumes that if you find out, well, we'll talk about it. So you give room for that kind of difficulty, and then it becomes difficult for you to take the decision. But now it's documented. Every employee has signed. Book no lie. All right.
Okay, so yeah, okay. So I don't know whether you're doing the right thing. I would not be able to tell you that, but if I were in your shoes, I would fire. And this is why I say that this person is training another. Do you know what she's telling the other person? There are other people in your organization. She will influence them as well. Apart from that, that is the precedent you have set. So if another one does it, are you going to also say that they should stay? So, I totally disagree with Nana that you let them stay, because there are just too many of them in my organization. I can't keep an eye on one thief. I'm sorry. So yes, if you fire, you will suffer a little. It's okay. But that will also help you to put certain structures in place so that you do not go through that again. Putting everything in one person is not good, because once they leave, your business will shut down. So that's what I would do if I were in your shoes. But I'm not.